It has been close to 2 weeks since we got an official Discovery episode, but fear no more, we are back and better than ever. Welcome to Discovery and welcome to another episode of Discovery. It has been 2 weeks since the last Discovery. The week before was Games Discovery, which didn't do very well on the channel, but you know what, it was something different. Well, the week before that was the normal Discovery, and we're back to the normal Discovery, but we have changed the format a little bit. But gee, if you're here for a reaction, you can fuck off right now because there are no reactions. This is just pure reviews for those that love reviews, that love to see me review. So I have 14 albums that need to be reviewed because there have been so many albums the last 2 weeks. So honestly, I cannot wait to give you my thoughts on all the albums I checked out. So let's kick off with one of the best atmospheric black metal albums of the year at the moment. It's Paysage the Hiver and their album in Wald. This album is a cold, black, dark, atmospheric black metal album that you feel like you're lost in the lonely, haunted woods listening to this. There are some incredible songs on this album. I'm talking about fucking incredible. The production is a taste. The production sounds like a raw 90s black metal album. Sometimes listening to this album, you go in a trance. I love the song Invincible. This album is 2 hours long. You sink your teeth in and you listen to this album and it's 2 hours long. The last song is like fucking 20 minutes long, which is So Halt is Wilder. An absolutely incredible black metal album that I can't help but just recommend you. If you love cold, atmospheric, dark black metal, you're gonna fucking well love this. One criticism is maybe the production. Maybe a lot of people won't like the production, but I'm telling you, if you give this album a chance, you will enjoy it. But it's those that absolutely adore black metal. I wouldn't suggest anyone that likes demo booger or the symphonic black metal shit like Carach Angren. Like, I wouldn't suggest that because you guys wouldn't understand this cold, atmospheric, dark black metal sound. I really enjoyed this album. Honestly, throughout this album, there's the howling of the wind blowing your ears and just feels like you're absolutely lost in the dark woods. And it's like it's something out of the Blair Witch Project. I mean, I just absolutely love how horrifying this album is at times. For Paysage the Hiver, I will give this a 9.5 out of 10. One of the best black metal albums of the year. So now we move on to Bough, Witch and Error Ruin and the album Stygian Bough Volume 1. This is a collaboration album and Bough, Witch and Error Ruin do it so well. This is out on Profound Law Records and honestly, it's a Funeral Doom album. If you don't like Funeral Doom, you're probably not going to enjoy this, but lucky for me, I absolutely adore it. I really enjoyed Bough, Witch's masterpiece of an album, Mirror Reaper. Absolutely fantastic album. An hour and 20-minute long song, so damn good. And this album lived to its expectations, in my opinion. I absolutely loved it. Just love the down-tuning guitars, and not to mention the vocals on this album is so damn good, mixed with Bough, Witch and Error Ruin's vocals. And not only that, it's just got some catchy, melodic moments. I love the guitar throughout the start of the album. The Bastard Wing, boom, ding, 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 so damn good. And some songs are like 20 minutes long. The Bastard Wind's an amazing song, along with The Unbodied Air, which is just close to a Funeral Doom masterpiece. One of the best albums of the year so far. For Bough, Witch, Error Ruin, Stygian Bough Volume 1, I will give this, well, another 9.5 out of 10. And now we go to one of the albums that I weren't very impressed with. We're talking about Carach Angren, Franckensteina, Strataemontanus.
It comes back in the dreams at night to wake them, reminding
This album is a mess. It's an absolute mess. And to be honest, I had to stomach listening to this album twice to try and give some positive review on this album, but honestly, I cannot. I cannot give you a positive review on this album. I don't understand the hype for this band, to be honest. Carach Angren albums the last album was good, but this album, man, this album is a fucking mess. It really is. It's got a good concept to the album, but it's the execution. I don't really enjoy this album. I think it's one of the worst albums of the year at the moment, really rivaling with Old Man Gloom as well. Didn't like that album as well. Scourged Ghoul Undead is probably the best song off the album. The rest of the songs are just, meh. I must warn you that you may not like it, but they incorporate some cheesy symphonic elements throughout this album. It's not a very good album. The Oceans do it so much better than this piece of shit. And for Carach Angren and the new album, man, a 1.5 out of 10. So now we move on to Mushroomhead, A Wonderful Life. Was really excited for this album, I really was, but the problem with this album is that it's new metal. It's new metal and it's a different taste to new metal, and I did enjoy part of this album, I really did, but man, this album is so damn fucking long. And this is one of the negatives for this album. Clocking over an hour and 10 minutes, this album, it's got a very strong half. Like, I do love Madness Within, they've seen it all, and probably halfway through the album, it's pretty solid. Got that Mushroomhead sound that we come to enjoy. But then this album really drags, and it really drags when I say there are some soft ballady songs, and the last song is the most disappointing song of the album. It drags this album, it's very uninspiring as well, especially once you get to the second half of the album, and to be honest, I was impressed halfway through it, and then I said, nah man, it's not that great. So I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. So now we go to another Funeral Doom band, one of my favorite Funeral Doom bands of all time. We're talking about Ahab and their live album, Live Prey. From the first album, The Call of the Wretched Seas. Now that album is, I'm gonna say it, is a fucking masterpiece. The melodies are amazing. So what do? They create a live album based on this album, and I'll tell you what, I am so damn impressed. I really am. It just sounds like they're playing in the studio, and there's nothing much I can say because that album was a masterpiece. This album is a live album, and I was very impressed of how they actually maintained the atmosphere throughout that live setting. It's so damn good. Every single note is exactly the same as the album, and I fucking well love that. I'm not going to actually rate this album. I'm not rating this album because I don't rate live albums. But Ahab, Live Prey, it's definitely, if you love Ahab, if you love Funeral Doom, or if you like bands like Evoken or even Hood and Menace, you're going to really love Ahab, Live Prey. Now we move on to Fellwarden, Wreathed in Mourncloud. This album is very surprising, it really is, because the first song, Pathmaker, which sounds very similar to Alcest, very inspired by Alcest, and I thought this would be like a shoegazy album, but then all of a sudden, once Scalfel's Blight comes along, it hits you with fucking blast of black metal, and it's absolutely insane, especially those shrieks. This is a black metal album, and I just absolutely love how coherent this album is. It's definitely one of the best albums of June, and I fucking well loved it. It's just a really tight and cohesive album, and I really enjoyed some of these songs. Clocking around about 54 minutes, it's 6 songs, and some songs are incredibly long, but if you like atmospheric black metal, which they do maintain that atmosphere that you want from black metal, you're going to really enjoy this album. Songs like Upon Stone has an amazing guitar melody, along with an Outer Reckoning as well. Really enticing album to listen to once you listen to the first song. Gotta say, it's a little bit of a jerker, going from shoegaze, from clean vocals to aggressive black metal vocals. as we move on to the second song. So for Fellwarden, Wreathed in Mourncloud, I will give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. Now we move on to Protest the Hero, Palimpsest. Okay, so not a very big fan of Protest the Hero, and I gotta be honest, I have heard all their albums, and to be honest, I am not a big fan. I absolutely adore prog, but there's some prog that I don't really like, and unfortunately this is Protest the Hero. This is way too chaotic for me, way too chaotic, and again, this album just doesn't do much for me. His vocals are the main problem. I don't enjoy his vocals, and I gotta be brutally honest, I do not enjoy his vocals. I just feel like at times he sounds like a whiny girl. And although I do enjoy a little bit of his harsher vocals, look, I've listened to this album once, and then I had to listen to the album again to sort of give you an honest review, and it was stomaching to listen to this album all the way through. It really was. And to be honest, there are some really nice instrumental parts throughout this album, but this doesn't really impress me. Doesn't really impress me. Not up to the caliber of Dream Theater, not up to the caliber of Symphony X or any other prog metal bands out there. Protest the Hero certainly do have a different sound, incorporating those progressive metalcore elements, but I'd still put him as progressive metal. But yeah, this album's way too chaotic. And for Protest the Hero, Palimpsest, a 4 out of 10. So now we move on to Poltergeist, Feather of Truth. Surprisingly interesting album this is. This is a thrash metal album. Now, this is one of the better thrash metal albums of the year, but definitely doesn't hold a candle towards Warbringer or maybe even Vader as well. It doesn't hold a candle to this, but it's still got a really good package. It really does. And I love the foundation of this album. It holds true to what it is, and this is thrash metal through and through. Some really good songs as well. Do love his vocals. Vocals are really good throughout this album. How instrumentally technical they are at times. Incorporate harsher vocals throughout this album along with cleaner vocals, and I do really enjoy that part. The lyrics overall are pretty political driven as well. I do love the overall lyrics throughout some of these songs. My favorite song of the album is Time at Hand, followed by The Attention Trap. Absolutely love that song. I do love how fun this album feels, very similar to Annihilator or bands like that. But Poltergeist, Feather of Truth is a fun fucking album that you should definitely check out. Oh yeah, for Poltergeist, Feather of Truth, I will give this a 6.5 out of 10. The next band is American, Arson, Line in the Sand.
But I know when you wrap your love around me, the sky might crack.
Punk and elements of hardcore, you're gonna really fucking well love this. This band's very similar to Rise Against, which is a band I do really enjoy, and this band is quite surprising. Do love the instrumental moments, and I love political driven song Drop Your Daggers. This is a very political based album, you could say, and there are some very good songs on this album. Some harsher vocals throughout this album as well, which blew me away. But Wolfpack is a very aggressive, energetic song that I would definitely recommend you this album if you like that sort of hardcore punky sound. So for American Arson, Line in the Sand, man, a 7 out of 10. So now we move on to Bury Tomorrow, one of the biggest releases of the year, and it's Cannibal. This is a metalcore album, and a lot of metalcore fans would actually know this. For those that aren't into metalcore, they wouldn't know this. They wouldn't know this band, but they are firing at all cylinders throughout this album. Some very cool songs like Choke. Cannibal was an amazing song as well, along with The Grey. Some absolutely fantastic songs. I love the breakdowns, heavy breakdowns throughout this album, and it's just overall a very fun album. Now, this album fucking flies. It really does. And I said, hey, wait on, is this the actual full album? Like, I really want more. I wanted more from Bury Tomorrow, but man, it's short and sweet. This album runs around 42 minutes, and I fucking well enjoyed it. So for Bury Tomorrow, Cannibal, Man, at 7.5 out of 10. Okay, so now we get in some good shit now, and it's the album Äkth Gánahëth and his album Crowned in the Shadows. This is a full-on 90s production black metal album, and it's such a really cool album, it really is. It's definitely going to be up there to be probably one of my favorite albums of July, of just how coherent this album flows. Got some awesome synthy keys that don't sound cheesy at all, and it's got this layering atmosphere that you just can't help but enjoy. I absolutely love the songs, The Gates of Hell, along with The Battle on Vergro, absolutely amazing song. Not to mention Journey Through the Desert of Ice, a really coherent flowing black metal album that you'll fucking well enjoy. I love how dynamic this album feels as well. At times it sounds so damn raw and so damn visceral, but at times it also has that subtle side, and that's what you want from black metal. Very enjoyable album. I absolutely adored it. For Äkth Gánahëth, Crowned in the Shadows, I will give this a 8 out of 10. Now we move on to an EP. Now, I thought this was an album, but it's apparently an EP, and it's Ages of Blood, Pagan Medieval Aristocracy. Ooh, this album is fun. It's a really fun, folky black metal album. Again, layering that atmosphere that you absolutely love. Love how atmospheric this album is. His vocals are top notch in my opinion, and there are some awesome moments. I do love the self-titled track, which is like an 8-minute song. Then you got Feeble Whispers from an Old Witch, an incredible 7-minute song. Absolutely adored it. But these songs are very long. But the EP is like 19 minutes long. I fathom how they fit that much in an EP. It's like a whole fucking album. So damn good. This is the first time I'm ever going to rate an EP. Man, an 8.5 out of 10. Now we move on to some power metal. A very fun power metal album that I really did enjoy. It's Imperivm, Holy Wars.
How many days? How many times?
Very enticing symphonic metal elements throughout this album, and has a very dynamic approach. His vocals are good. At times they do sound just a little bit off in my opinion, but you can give and take the vocals throughout this album. At times he sounds great, and at times he sounds terrible. Facing in a holy war, his vocals aren't that great, and even Fallen Away, his vocals aren't that great, but the rest of the album, he's actually a really good vocalist. I don't know, but the production is pretty good as well. Some very tight and cohesive songs on this album that flow very beautifully. This album's around about 47 minutes long. I do love Fear of Messiah, which definitely has a hard, energetic, raw power metal feel. But for Imperivm Holy War, I will give this a 5.5 out of 10. So now we move on to probably going to be my favorite July album. It is Noctem Acternus, Landscape of Discord. This is so damn good. This is an overall symphonic black metal album. Absolutely fantastic. I love the layering atmosphere throughout this album. Amazing songs like Those Who Shall Perish, along with Necromancy. To finish up this album is Solstice in the Dark, which is so damn fucking good. Some really good songs. I love his vocals so now visceral and aggressive, but yet tell that story. It's like you're in ancient Greece or something, plowing through those mountains as you're trying to battle, and I just love they're all blast beats throughout this album. The instrumentals are fucking fantastic, and overall it's such a really tight album. This album's around about 55 minutes. It doesn't feel like 55 minutes because there's so much happening. Not to mention the orchestral elements throughout this album, very similar to bands like The Summoning. This is a very epic album by Noctem Acternus, and I absolutely loved it. This is probably going to be my favorite July album. Nothing can beat it at the moment. So for Noctem Acternus, Landscape of Discord, I will give this a 9 out of 10. So that's it for Discovery. My camera's about to die, and goodbye.